Hello, this is a video on the symbolism of the skene and its interior in Euripides Bacchae. It will focus on the opening scene. Now, for an introduction to the skene, the stage building, this extremely important interior space in Greek theatre, I would advise you to watch this video also on our YouTube channel before you watch the current video. This is where I explain why darkness is one very key idea attached to this space. In order to understand this, you only need to think about the fact that in the original conditions of Greek theatre, the skene interior was the only space that was not flooded by natural light. Okay, Greek theatre took place in the open, in the bright light of day. And this temporary building, the skene and its interior, captured darkness. And of course, when we talk about Greek tragedy, darkness and metaphorical darkness is a very dear concept to this genre. In short, again, if you watch this earlier video, I explain why the dark space of the skene, this interior, captures very important, very key ideas for Greek tragedy, including a family's character, okay, and its past, dysfunctional relationships, repressed feelings and thoughts, a family's psychopathology, yes, because we often talk about dysfunctional families, which often translates into what we would understand as a curse, and also often a space of death or Hades, and again other dark interior spaces like an individual's mind, their thoughts, their feelings, and often again an individual's body, including a female body. Now, why is it important to think about the stage building in Euripides Bacchae as something more than what we read in our textbook, a backdrop, okay, a wooden hat for the actors to change costume? Let's start from the basic. What does the skene building represent in the Bacchae? It represents, of course, the palace of Pentheus. And this space is not only a palace, it's not only a center of political power, but it is also the household of the family of Cadmus, of which Pentheus is a scion. Now, if you think about which characters of the play belong to that household, you may, of course, think of Pentheus, Cadmus, Agawe, Ino, the main characters of the play, but you should also not forget Dionysus. Dionysus is, in fact, one of the members of the family of Cadmus. We tend to forget this because when Dionysus is introduced in the play, he's introduced like a god who comes from abroad. In fact, Dionysus is native to Thebes. Now, we also say often that Greek households of Greek tragedy are often quite dysfunctional, and the family of Cadmus does have kind of dysfunctional relationships in several ways. And again, we get information about one of them quite early on in the play, but let's look at the text. This is from the opening scene. This is what the first words that Dionysus utters in the play. To this land of Thebes I have come, I, Dionysus, son of Zeus. Cadmus's daughter Semele, midwived by the lightning fire, once gave birth to me. Semele is the daughter of Cadmus, and so Dionysus is grandson of Cadmus, so we know that he belongs to this oikos, to this household. I have exchanged my divine form for a mortal one, and I have come to the waters of Dirce and Ismenus, okay, to Thebes. And then see how his next sentence is a reference to a household. I see here by the palace the tomb of my lightning-slain mother and the ruins of her house. This expression often goes completely unnoticed, even in the commentary. However, it is important for us to notice it, because if you ask yourself, ruins of a house, where are the ruins of the house in the Bacchae? Surely you should remember that in the Bacchae there is an earthquake later on, a major event of the play where the house, the palace, collapses, and this has got huge metaphorical and symbolic power. Now, in the very opening of the play, we hear about the ruins of Semele's house, her tomb. So we have to imagine a space which captures, a ruined abode nearby the palace, as well as her tomb, which now has become a sanctuary. This is, of course, all in the power of audience's imagination to understand. However, it is important to notice that we have an early mirror image, almost an early foreshadowing of the very important scene that will take place later on. Let's see now about the dysfunctionality. He says, Dionysus says, dressed now, disguised as a Lydian stranger, I have now for the first time returned to Greece, having said everything to Asia. So this is a homecoming for him. It is a returning Greek, and he's a returning Greek divine entity. Okay, and then he goes on to describe to us the situation in the house. He says, for my mother's sisters, the last who should have done so, said that Dionysus was no son of Zeus, but that she had been bedded by a mortal, and then by a clever invention of Cadmus, she ascribed her sexual misdeeds to Zeus. In other words, my mom's sisters called her a slut. This is, a situation in a household that shows some rupture, which explains why Dionysus has now intervened in this household. This is the beginning of the end of the household. He says, I have stung them in Dionysiac madness, and I have made them to leave their houses and go to the opposite space of a house. A house is often a space of, civilization, control. Now he has turned them into mad Bacchants and sent them to the mountains. In as early as this point, we have this huge contrast that dominates the play, which is the house and the mountain. I have driven in madness from their houses, mixed together with the daughters of Cadmus, the people of Thebes, sit upon the cliffs in the open air under the green fir trees. Now, I spoke to you until now about the opening scene and how the opening scene foreshadows important elements, which we will see developed later on. In part 2 of this video on the symbolism of the skene, I will expand into now Pentheus's attempts to confine and control the Dionysiac and how this is mapped onto the space of the house. And then we will go on to the key earthquake scene, and finally we will look at the finale. Thank you.